Hello and welcome to Some of My Friends Read Comics. We've got Vance.
Think clean thoughts, chum.
We've got Chris.
I already have a Bottle City, but thank you.
And I'm Kia. Hi, welcome to the show. Today we are reading some Superman stuff by Alan Moore. We haven't read any Alan Moore in a long time on this show here. Vince, you were just telling me it was 2017?
May 2017, our first two-parter with Supreme. I think Supreme just set such a high bar that we stopped reading Alan Moore. Which is crazy because we read so much Alan Moore in our first couple of years of this show.
Yeah. I think we thought we had finished it, but then we realized, wait, he's written other stuff.
We read Promethea, Top 10, I think you boys really liked. The Joker book. I can't even remember what it's called now.
Killing Joke, yes.
The Killing Joke. Yeah, Swamp Thing. We read a lot.
Yeah, we was meant to go back and do more Swamp Thing. We got to remember that. But this time around we are doing a couple of Superman stories he wrote from the 80s. It's our Death Month, January, where we exclusively read comics about death for some reason. And we're going to keep it going because I guess this first story isn't too death related. We're going to read For the Man Who Has Everything. Which was in what comic? What year was this?
It's Superman Annual number 11. It is from June 1985. It's by Alan Moore and Dave Gibbons, which is a year before Watchmen started. This is the Watchmen team working together. I don't know if it's their first time working together, but I don't think Moore must have been at DC for more than a year or two. I don't know when Swamp Thing started. I want to say 84. So he has not been around that long.
All right. So yeah, and this was really just like a nice little filler story. It doesn't have anything to do with any ongoing stories or anything, but it's one of those perennial favorites. Most people, at least for me, I don't know what issue or anything it comes from because it's constantly being reprinted in different Best of Alan Moore collections, things like that.
Yeah, there was my library had like a Alan Moore like one shots from DC collection. I mean, they sold these like individually also, but I want to say I had like a Green Lantern book, and then this, and the other book we're reading. Not For the Man Who Has Everything. I've already lost my notes.
Whatever Happened to the Man of Tomorrow.
I keep on wanting to say Superman for All Seasons. That's not right. Yeah, What Happened to the Man of Tomorrow. It has that, Killing Joke, those kind of things. So I remember seeing this at my library, and I remember watching a Justice League Unlimited episode of this as well. I think it was episode 2 when it switched to Unlimited.
So I think Whatever Happened to the Man of Tomorrow was the one that has a lot of death in it. We'll get to that one later. For the Man Who Has Everything, it's just a nice little story about what do you get for Superman on his birthday. Aw, how sweet. Are we ready to just kind of jump into it? I think. Great. I had, for the record, I had read this one in the past. I think we all had read this one before.
I'd just seen the cartoon. I'd never read it.
Oh, okay, great.
Both of these are new to me, actually.
Oh, wonderful. And Chris, you read both of these, right?
Yes.
Great. For the Man Who Has Everything, it starts with Batman and Robin kind of approaching the Fortress of Solitude, and they meet up with Wonder Woman. They're all on the way there to have I don't know, is it like would you call this a birthday party or just a small exchange of gifts, I guess. This is a nice little moment of character building for Jason Todd. He's the new Robin. And I think your quote, Vince, comes from that when, Wonder Woman is being a little scantily clad in the cold weather, and Robin's looking. It's okay.
He says, because he doesn't, think clean thoughts, chum. But Robin doesn't know Wonder Woman that well, or Superman that well, and that's kind of interesting when, later on in the story. This is probably the first time I felt like, I like Jason Todd. Because I don't really, I think just because I grew up more watching Batman TAS with Tim Drake, I'm not used to a tall Robin. Like, it's weird to me. And it's weird to see a Robin with no pants. Like Tim Drake is like supposed to be like half the size of Batman, a lot skinnier than Batman, and then wearing pants. And Jason Todd is in the Arctic, like not wearing pants because he didn't plan for this. Did you guys, by the way, read the story this week that Burt Ward was talking, who played Robin and Dick Grayson on 60s Batman? Chris, I think you know.
I did hear this.
He said
what is this?
Burt Ward, he played on the '60s Batman.
Yeah. What's the story?
He said that his bulge from his pants was too large on the '60s show, and ABC gave him penis shrinking pills. And he says Adam West didn't have to take them, but I did. Which is just crazy enough for a weird old man to be telling that story, but also like a weird flex. But the articles I all read were like, the problem easily could have been solved by just giving Robin pants. Like, you didn't have to like adhere to this costume. Yeah. But they stuck with it, at least through the 80s. So here we are.
Oh boy, penis shrinking pills, huh? What is it? Okay.
And how do you get that? Yeah. You have to do that off script, I think, is what some people were saying. Like, how do you, like, yeah, like I don't think you test that FDA approval for dick shrinking pills. But sure, here we are.
Yeah. How quick do those work? Like, like, you take one and it's instant for an hour, and it's like, all right, let's shoot before they wear off.
Yeah. Is it a long-term thing, or is it an immediate thing?
It's a gel pack in a very cold water. You just take it rectally.
Great. So they show up to give Superman some presents for his birthday. And they're like, oh, what do you get him? Blah, blah, blah. And they show up, and he is like this paralyzed statue with this thing growing out of his chest. I called it a vine.
I called it like a brain and then a vine like coming out of his chest. It's a very cool image because it's like all over the entire like S of the of his logo, or whatever it means, peace or whatever nonsense they said it means, but it's an S. We know that.
Yeah, we know that. And we very quickly sort of jump into Superman's thoughts, where he is he is living his life on Krypton, and basically what this thing has done to him is kind of give him his deepest, darkest desires, his wish that Krypton had never exploded and he was still like living a life there. And we get like a lot of, insight into the social issual that are plaguing Krypton today.
It's a bit much. It's a little too real. I feel like, well, one, there's some cute things. Like I like that the kids are watching Nightwing and Flamebird, which is like a cartoon, like it's like a Krypton history. I think that's really cute. But then it's like very clear, and I'm sure we're jumping around here, but it becomes very clear that Jor-El, his dad, he feels like he's an old boomer at the best, and possibly the leader of the clan at the worst.
Yep. I think both is the answer.
He's like, man, it was so much better back then, 20 years ago, and now the kids today. And I'm like, okay, boomer, like, just chill the fuck out.
That's exactly what he's doing. And all his friends are like, oh, hey, it's your son who married the actress. Yeah, I know him. Like, they don't like Clark at all. And it's very, very weird. And for a book about, like, go ahead.
Yeah, for a book about his like deepest desires, like it's really shitty for him. like it starts off as this is your deepest desire, and then we're going to twist the knife and show you how bad this could be. Like it's really weird. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me in that regard.
Right. But which is we'll get to the end here where we're kind of thinking about all that sort of stuff. Yeah, they're Batman and Robin and Wonder Woman are kind of sitting there on the outside of this, like figuring out what to do. Like, oh my gosh, how do we free him for this?
I like it. They're like, who could have sent this? And like, well, it could have been some aliens, and maybe they didn't know that this was a side effect. Like, I like that they float that potential sci-fi idea.
Yeah, like it could have been some friendly friends of Superman, and they're like, how'd this happen? Oh no. But it is an evil villain alien. It's a Mongol who I don't really know that I've read much or
and
anything.
they don't say his name for like until Superman wakes back up.
Exactly.
Sorry, skipping ahead. Spoiler. But
because Batman and Robin and Wonder Woman don't know this guy, and they're just like, "Who's this guy?" Shit. Which makes sense to me.
Which I kind of would hope that it was like a villain that never existed before. Like that kind of would be nice. Neither before or after. He just.
It's just in this issue.
Somebody's got beef with Superman. But my notes say some villain I don't know shows up admits to it. And Diana's immediately like, I'm just going to punch this dude. And that's my first nominee for Panel of the Week. Is just the way that she just... Which, we've been doing this for 120 episodes, and we never called Panel of the Week just our POW. POW.
Yeah.
Panel of the Week.
Never is, yeah.
But man,
Well,
it's a hell of a panel.
Yeah, it's not a character I know, but he apparently did exist, and he was actually a Jim Starlin design. So that's interesting.
I feel like January is actually like Secret Starlin month. It's not really Death month, but
Secret Starlin. Oh, that's good. So we this character of Mongol, I do like this touch of him being like sort of a sexist asshole, but not like admitting to it in a weird way. He's like, hey, I know that like sexist issues matter to you humans. Who should I kill first here based on that? And Wonder Woman punches him. He's like, all right, it's you. I get it. And then like just kind of treats her like shit the rest of the book. Like, oh yeah, this is a good woman's weapon. It's smaller. Like that kind of junk.
Yeah. There's a really good line that he gives with her. It's like, oh dear, is that a neural impactor? Do they even still make those? Like, it's such a, oh honey, like bless your heart. You think that's going to do something on me. Like, it's a really good taunt. I like it. I like it a lot.
Great. We learn back in like Superman's his imaginary fantasy world that I kind of like this bit about how, what was it? Superman's dad had invented the Phantom Zone, right? And all of these people are kind of protesting the Phantom Zone now. Which makes sense to me, like protesting putting so many people in prison. It's so current, man. This shit. Alan Moore, what are you doing? How did you know we were going to be thinking about all this stuff?
Almost like it's cyclical.
Yeah. And like protests and stuff are happening. It's the moment where like he's Jor-El is the leader of this clan of people wearing hooded robes, and they've got crosses on fire. Like, I didn't even realize Christianity was that big in Krypton.
Well,
but
it's a T. It's the Kryptonian symbol for get out of here.
Lowercase t, time for leave.
Time to leave, yeah.
Yeah, well, I didn't want to reference South Park, but you guys can.
Yeah, okay, cool.
But man, and it's funny because like not that many people are participating in the protest. It's not really said, but it's like clearly like a branch of like dipshit Klansmen that are participating in this. And I like that like Clark is trying to get somewhere, but this like protest, their march or whatever is going through town, and he's like, I don't want my son to see his grandfather at this Klan rally, so I'm not going to. So I'm gonna try to drive around here, and I like that. Or I'm not Clark, whatever. Kal-El. I apologize.
Mm-hmm, yeah, his like there is a nice line as they're leaving, and his Clark's son, Kal-El's son, is like, "Hey, I thought I saw Grandpa over there talking about the end of the world. What's going on, Dad?" He's like, the Grandpa's world ended a long time ago. You know, that's it's a nice poignant line. I like that. And Mongol kind of explains this device a little bit to Batman and Robin and Diana, talking about it is capable, like for whoever is under this thing spell to break out of it, but most people are just kind of so sucked into it that they don't want to. And Clark does start to break out of it and realizes that his son isn't real and has to say goodbye to him. And all that kind of stuff. Leaves his family behind.
That's pretty cool too, because he takes his son. It almost looks like the moon from Watchmen. Like, it reminds me a lot of Dr. Manhattan sitting on the moon, and then he's like looking at his son, and he's like, "I'm sorry, son. I don't think you're real." Like, and it's a really good like scene of like, I'm having to break through this dream. It's a little clumsy, but it's also like, I think it works. I think it's rushed. I think it's rushed, is what maybe I'm saying.
Okay, yeah, that's fair. I still don't understand why his world was so negative. Maybe it's because Superman is so smart and he knew so much about the world then. No, he was a baby. That doesn't make sense.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think the plant is supposed to just give you everything you want, though. I think that's like the twisting of the knife of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
because
I don't know if
we'll get to Bruce's, but I don't think that's exactly what he wants either.
Yeah, I don't. But the thing is like Mongol like states like the joke would be that I would give you exactly what you wanted, and then you would have to learn that wasn't real, and you'd have to reject the thing you most wanted, and that would be your punishment. Which is a really cool idea, and that doesn't seem to jive with the fact that it's not a happy dream. So.
Right.
Yeah. I think maybe that's what it is. Maybe it needed to be just a little bit longer for me to see more of the happy dream at the beginning before it turned towards evil space Nazis. And So we're still going though. There's still more to this thing. Bruce kind of helps rip this plant brain vine off of Clark, and it lands right on Bruce's chest. So now we're seeing Bruce's dream of his parents, of course, not being murdered, and Thomas saving the day, all that stuff. And yeah, well, Robin is trying to get off of him.
Yeah, it's pretty wild though that both of their like immediate fantasies in this world are subverting their parents' deaths and also like undoing their origin, which is that like that to me is like interesting. That like I feel like especially for actually for both of them, especially for Superman though, they've both been around so long that I can't imagine. I don't know if like Krypton's explosion weighs on Superman that much compared to everything else he's got going on, but maybe it does. Maybe
I mean, I imagine it would still like to be the last of your entire species is like a pretty big deal.
I guess that's true. Right. Like if this was like Uncle Ben dying, and maybe that's just more because I care about Spider-Man. Like that seems to have weighed on Spider-Man, like and still like inform him greatly. But it doesn't. I mean, like Krypton seems to me like a thing that happened in his past that he's not thought about like changing that often.
Yeah, he was a baby. He didn't even know Krypton. It doesn't matter, right?
Yeah. So then what happens?
Then what happens?
Well, Jason, because I think we skipped over it, or maybe like Wonder Woman's been beat up, so she's out of the fight, and Jason Todd is freaking out. He's like, I don't, no, like okay, so like Superman's still kind of like waking up. Batman's got this brain thing on him. We've got this Mongol thing. Like I am in over my head, bros. Like this is not good for me, and I like that. I really like. I'm liking Jason Todd a lot in this book. I feel like
he does he does great stuff in this book. He sees that Mongol was using these like big giant gauntlets to carry this plant around, or something like that, and he says, "Oh, I got to use these things," and he puts it on, like rips the thing off of Batman, decides to put it in a bag and just carry it to Superman and Mongol, who are out there fighting. Superman's pissed.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of a bummer though. The way that Jason just gets like the Batman in his dream sequence gets immediately ended. Which I was excited for. I was like, because the brain thing got ripped off of Superman halfway through the book. It's about like a 40-page comic. And I'm like, okay, well, Alan Moore is not exactly known for his like 20-page long fight scenes. So I don't know where this story is going to go. Because it still has
you thought the back half was going to be all Batman origin?
I thought it was going to jump between all of them. I thought it was going to go to Todd and to Wonder Woman. I thought we were going to have like a lot of different tastes of everything. I did not think it was just going to be 20 pages of punching, which it isn't. But
it's really not. Yeah,
but I was expecting like more with Batman or something, just more jumping around because like I mean it's halfway through the page count. Like one of the big problems has already been solved. But man, when Superman wakes up and he's like, "Who did this to me?" and that's a great like another like panel of the week, like the way that he just like flies towards Mongol and.
Yeah, it definitely reminded me of like in Superman, was it the animated series or the Justice League show when he gives that speech to Darkseid about how he's like holding back all the time.
Yeah.
Where you're like, damn, Superman's like a living god who could smite us at any moment.
It's great.
Gosh, great lettering too when he's like Mongol and like the letters are curved around him, filling up the whole panel.
In the background, yeah, that's good.
Yeah, that was cool.
Good job, Dave Gibbons.
Good job. So he's fighting Mongol and about to kill him, and kind of like seeing the planet Krypton like in a statue behind him is enough for make him like whoa, kind of like rethink everything. Mongol starts to get the upper hand until Robin throws this plant brain vine onto Mongol, who I really like this now when we're starting to see Mongol's fantasies back and forth with like his fantasy just starts right in the moment where the only thing he gives a shit about in this moment is killing Robin, killing Superman, killing everybody, and we see him doing that, but then just kind of like juxtaposed with him just passing out on the floor with his brain vine attached to him. It's great.
It's cool. It's really cool. That's the comic medium can do some really cool things like that.
And so then like, hey, this guy's just a dead statue. I don't know if we ever saw Mongol again after this. Is he just here forever now?
He's just in the Fortress of Solitude?
Yeah. Just like a prisoner in his own mind forever? I don't know.
I mean, this is right before the end of Crisis, so Like,
Yeah, that's
okay.
the last pre-crisis appearance of Mongol.
All right, so at post-crisis, he's been freed from this thing. Okay, that makes sense. But now it's time for the gift exchange. Hey, great. Diana got Clark a replica Bottle City of Candor to replace the one that had been enlarged. Oh, how sweet. Meanwhile, Clark really quickly flies to this current Bottle City of Candor and puts it away so that Wonder Woman doesn't have to be embarrassed that she got him something he already has. How nice. How nice. And then Bruce got him some rose that got stepped on in the middle of the fight.
Well, he genetically breeded a new plant called the Krypton.
Oh, well, too bad. It's gone. Perhaps that's what Clark says. Perhaps
It seems like a lot of work for like a friend.
yeah, for like a yeah.
Well, what do you
don't
get
know.
for the man who has everything?
Yeah, that's true.
I do love
A
Mongol.
gift card.
Yeah.
Mhm,
Okay,
mhm.
so let's
Yeah.
let's flip to the cartoon real quick. Okay, so the
Wait,
cartoon.
hold on. We got to finish the story out real quick. The last
Okay.
thing that we see is Mongol just sitting there in his own mind, imagining that the entire world has been decimated before him, and he's sitting on this throne, and his fantasy is perfectly happy. He's got everything that he wants. So I guess he's not going to break out of it anytime soon. Great. Okay, all right. Flip to the cartoon now. What's going
Okay,
on?
flip to the cartoon, and then we'll give our final thoughts. So the gifts are changed. Okay, the gifts are changed for some stupid reason. Wonder Woman's still cagey at the beginning. Like, what did you get him? I'm like, I'm not going to tell you, Bruce. What'd you get him? I mean, what do you get for the man who has everything? It's like, did you get him a gift card? No, cash. So Batman did give him cash.
What?
Just gave him an envelope full of money. That's what he gave him. And
This
Wonder
isn't
Woman.
the worst thing to give Superman.
And then Wonder Woman gave him the plant.
Oh, interesting.
What? Oh, you mean the Krypton Rose?
Yeah. Why? I don't know. So they changed that. It is funny because when Batman and Wonder Woman are flying to the Fortress of Solitude, it's a 3-person jet. One seat is empty because Jason Todd's not there. There's no Robin in this story.
Oh, weird.
But otherwise, it pretty much follows pretty exactly. And it's a lot better. I haven't seen the Justice League cartoon since I've been watching all of these DC direct-to-video animated movies. Man, Justice League Unlimited's animation is just so much better and more fluid.
So good, man. It's so good.
And the cast is just like so much better and so much more comfortable and is so much less like stilted. I like the DC animated movies, but man, the show is so much better.
Yeah. I'm thinking about it, and I wonder if they changed the flower thing because they didn't want to portray Batman as somebody who gives flowers. Like in a way, like that kind of makes sense to me. Like they want to keep him tough. I don't know. It seems like something a network executive might say.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't know if they would have. Maybe there's this Battle City of Candor thing, and they just didn't want to explain it.
Yeah.
Oh, that makes sense too. Yeah.
And as I recall, I don't know if this cartoon hit it as much, but the cartoon really hit hard that Diana and Bruce were like into each other.
Yeah.
Which I don't know that it was in any other comic, but the TV series was like, no, they are secretly in love.
Yeah, they were all up on that. Great. So yeah, final thoughts. I love this story. I think it does have some of those issues with why does his dream get negative, but other than that, it's still a really good story. And even that negative dream is super interesting to see. Yeah.
Yeah,
like it.
my problem with it is that I don't like how the framing device is structured because I don't end up caring much about his fantasy because it's not real, like from page 2.
Sure.
Like the first page is actually him and his fantasy, and then the second page is them coming to the Fortress of Solitude to deliver his present. So you're like, well, this isn't real. This isn't like an Elseworld story that then pulls out to show what's really happening.
I would
and
say
therefore I
that
wasn't
it's-
invested.
Right.
I don't care. Like he's gonna get out of this, so like I don't really. I think if it was marketed as more for this is an Elseworld story where you're seeing what it would be like.
Sure.
But I don't
Vince,
care about
I have
the story.
a question for you. I have a question for you. Are you invested in America?
Oh.
Because this is not a story about a thing that is not real and will never happen.
Yeah.
This is a story that is real and is happening. Whoa.
But like we skipped over entirely like the pages spent on like Supergirl, his cousin, getting beat up.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm like, I don't care about this. This is a wasted page count.
It does feel like a wasted page. Yeah, I didn't care that Supergirl. I mean, it is nice. Like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Supergirl, his cousin, would also still be alive. Cool. It was an interesting touch. It made me go, oh, cute.
It's not so much like a what if story. It ends up being more like a how do we get out of this story.
Sure.
But
Chris,
man, the rest of it's good. The back half of it's real good.
Yeah.
Yes. What?
Chris, what's up? What'd you think? Did you read this?
I did read it. It's very good. I like the symmetry of it. The like he is content line for Superman is like he has a family that loves him and that supports him, and then for the bad guy, it's that he has like conquered everything.
Yep, good stuff. Conquer everything. Cool. Yeah, I had definitely read this story in the past, and I remembered it. The next one, I thought I had read at some point, but I didn't remember any of this thing. It is Whatever Happened to the Man of Tomorrow. It was spread across a couple issues of Superman and Action Comics. What year was this?
This is September 1986. DC Universe says that they both came out on September 3rd, but I find that highly dubious.
Yeah, that'd be weird.
It's probably just the first like Wednesday or whatever in September is probably how they...
Yeah, that's like...
But either way, Crisis 12 was March 1986, and this is 6 months later.
Whoa! All right, a quick. So we read a quick pre-crisis story, very close to the crisis, and a post-crisis story.
But this is the last story of the pre-crisis Superman.
Oh, okay.
Because then does John Byrne relaunch right after this, Chris? Is that what happens?
It's what year did we say this was?
September 86.
So I think it's a little bit later, but it's close to that. I think it's like 6 months or so.
Did he launch with like Superman Man of Steel?
I think that's right, because they went to four books pretty quickly around that time.
Yeah. So this is meant to be like a canonical end to the Superman story of pre-crisis? Okay, interesting. I didn't really realize that.
Yeah, so this is the more of the Death Month story.
I did like that there's this sort of preamble to the story of Alan Moore kind of writing up at the top like that this is an imaginary story, and that's it.
But it may not be imaginary. Wink, wink, wink. I love that kind of nonsense.
It's such a, like, I also think that's a way to think about especially comics as a medium, which is something that so many people have a hand in, and just remembering that it's all made up and imaginary. I just like when we acknowledge that. I feel like it's happened other times, but can y'all think of any other times when we've just like read comics that have acknowledged like, hey, listen, this is just a story. Calm down, y'all. Like, I don't know. I like that.
I mean, they have like this is the nature of story kind of stuff.
Sure, yeah.
But I'm struggling to think of like none of this matters, but it's still a good story.
Yeah, just read it and enjoy it. We open with some interviewer coming in to interview Lois Lane, and it's the year 1997, 10 years in the future. So we see the world of the future, which has curved couches and domes on computers or something or other. I don't know. That's what it was like in 1997 for us. And this interviewer is interviewing... It's not Lois Lane anymore. It's Lois Elliott. What? Who did she marry? Oh, my God. The Last Days of Superman is what they're covering. He's, been... what did they say? His disappearance and presumed death. Oh my God! I gotta know what happened to Superman here. Jesus! And we start to hear this story about what happened to Superman. All the villains were pretty much quiet and gone, taken care of.
Yeah. But then he was like they're all dead, or they'd killed themselves, or just given up. Superman was mostly just doing research for the government, which actually sounds like a really cool gig and like pretty lucrative.
It makes sense. Like, if Superman doesn't have any crime to fight, like, yeah, that makes sense.
Well,
keep busy.
Because I have like friends that like work for like satellite companies and shit, and NASA is just does like contracts to just take other companies' shit up into space. So I was yeah, this makes sense to me. Like, man, Superman can make some money like taking shit up for Verizon out in their satellites and stuff.
Boy, I bet he would make a lot of great money just like doing media, like not media, but like, hey, when instead of buying a plane ticket, why don't you pay Superman to carry you across the world?
Oh,
That'd
yeah.
be cool, wouldn't
Mm-hmm.
it?
Yeah, I mean, Superman could
Um,
just go and be at like inspirational corporate events and be like, "Let me tell you about like things that are difficult." Like I saw George Clooney that way, and I know he got paid like $70K for that. For, like, an
I
hour.
bet you could. I bet you could pay Superman to make a YouTube video where he breaks up with your boyfriend for you.
That is true.
That would be cool.
He
All right.
should fly to your house and do it for an extra
Yeah,
$100.
Yeah, that wouldn't be much out of his way. It'd probably be easier than trying to figure out how to make that app work.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, you should do it. All right, so he, all of a sudden he comes back from space from one of these missions, and like all hell's broken loose. He's like, "What happened? Did a bomb go off?" And Lois says, "Nah, it's Bizarro." He's like, just kind of lost his shit, and yeah, Bizarro. Superman goes talk to him, and he says, "I got to be this perfect imperfect creation. You're always saving people, so I got to kill all these people. Oh, and I got to do this blue Krypton thing." And he kills himself with blue Krypton.
Well, his logic was like, well, your planet blew up, and then you came to Earth as a baby, so I'll blow up my planet and then come to Earth as an adult. And then you're alive, so therefore I should be dead. Because that's opposite. Okay, Bizarro. Okay. All right.
We also get Superman kind of getting his identity revealed on TV. They're about to go on the air with the
I love
news.
they reveal this. Like, was this before the unmasking? Oh, yes, the unmasking.
Yeah.
Like in the framing device. Like, it's cool. We didn't even mention the artist, by the way. This is Curt Swan and George Perez doing this issue.
Yeah. Which is great. I'm confused because aren't they both letterers? I guess George Perez would have done the inking on this, and Curt Swan drew it. Does that sound right?
I don't know. Curt Swan's a classic Superman artist, but I don't know if this is like late.
Or did they go back and forth, and one did the past, one did the present?
I have no
No,
idea.
I'm pretty sure this is Curt Swan's pencils, and then Perez might do some finishing, and then the inks.
Okay, makes sense. So yeah, they're getting ready to go on the air, and somebody delivers a box, like two boxes. One is too big to bring inside. One is filled with little Superman dolls that start wreaking havoc and shooting laser vision everywhere.
Such a cool little image.
It is cool.
And they burn off Superman's clothes.
Yeah, they burn off Superman's
Or
clothes,
Clark
and they
Kent's
start
clothes. I'm sorry.
right. To reveal Superman underneath, and they start talking like, "Ha! We knew it was you, Clark Kent. How did we know? Oh, check the other box. It's the dead body of Pete Ross, who they like tortured and killed." I'm like, whoa, okay.
This just took a turn.
I don't think we mentioned the villains, Toyman and Prankster.
We were like, well, I like how I'm like, well, literally Bizarro just killed himself like a page earlier. That was funny though, in kind of a weird, like ironic way. And,
sure, nobody cares about Superman. I mean, about Bizarro.
But like just stuffing dead friends in boxes and mailing them to people, just it's like a different turn. Like,
yeah, it's messed
up. It's a bit much.
I think anytime you open a box and find a dead body inside, it's instantly creepy because you don't know how long it's been there, and that's really what does it. I think it's been there.
It requires a lot of forethought and planning. Yeah.
And Superman's like, what the hell? Like Toyman and Prankster, these used to be nuisances, and now they're killers. Like, this is messed up. I wonder what's gonna happen when my killers start coming back. Like, that's gonna be real terrible.
Gosh, this sounds like a Jeff Johns comic at this point. Oosh.
It kind of does. It is a little bit of like, hey, let's see everybody.
I mean, this is why Alan Moore doesn't like Jeff Johns, because he's like, you've just been stealing my whole ethic, like the whole style of everything I did for like 5 years, for 25 years.
But I'll say Alan Moore does it a little better.
Hot take, Kia. Hot take. Alan Moore, better writer than Jeff Johns.
Yeah. And also, he moved on and stopped doing these stories.
Yeah. So we see Luthor, who is kind of trudging through the Antarctic looking for Brainiac's head. It's the only piece of him that's been left, and he finds him. But Brainiac takes over, kind of sits himself right on top of Luthor's face and controls his body until the end of the story here. Great job, Brainiac. You did it. So we got this Luthor Brainiac team now going after Superman. while the Daily Planet gets attacked by Metallos.
This is cool. I really like how it's just a bunch of like normal people, and then the next panel they have like opened up their shirts, kind of like, or their shirts like Superman, to reveal like an insignia underneath, and then that turns into a grappling hook that shoots from their chest, and then they put on their Metallo masks. The next panel, man, it's a really cool progression. I like it a lot.
Yeah, and Daily Planet's like, oh my god, we're under attack. And of course, Superman shows up to save everybody, and he's like, "All right, we gotta get y'all to safety. All my villains are coming back now. This is kind of creepy." Takes everybody to the Fortress of Solitude. He takes Lana, Lois, Jimmy,
Perry White,
Perry, and Perry's wife, who is the ex-wife. I don't remember if they'd actually
getting divorced. I'm not sure exactly.
Or they were just fighting a lot. Yeah, they're not. They're sleeping in separate bedrooms. That's what we gotta know. What's her name? Alice? Was that her name?
Something like that.
Something like that. Okay. We also see the Kryptonite Man kind of show up, but he's a little late because everyone's already gone. So he kind of joins up with Luthor and Brainiac, who are also just showing up.
Yeah, I love Brainiac's line too when Luthor's like, "Brainiac, remember all the good times we had in like the and the whatever league of Injustice League." And then Brainiac just takes over his body and is like, "Welcome to the new Luthor Brainiac team."
Yeah, Brainiac's a real asshole in this. I mean, I guess Brainiac's always a real asshole, but yeah, he makes a good ultimate villain kind of asshole in this. We get everyone's back at the Fortress of Solitude. Krypto is there, hanging out, having a good time. And still Superman's like, this is extra weird. Like, Krypto just like coming back. Everybody's coming back. What is this? Then the Legion of Superheroes shows up again from the 30th century, and they're like, "Hey, Superman, we're here to give you a present." And Superman's like, "Why did y'all pick it now? Like, what is going on here? Are y'all here to pay your last respects? Because I feel like I'm dying soon." And they're like, no, that's not why we're here." That's totally lovely there.
And meanwhile, Supergirl is with them and is like,
"Yeah,
oh, hey, cousin, how's it going?" And he's like trying to keep it together. And he's like, "I just buried her like a month ago."
Does she not have super hearing? Because I feel like they're whispering in the background of like panels where we see her face, and I'm like, Supergirl should be able to hear this, shouldn't she?
Silver Age Superman has super ventriloquism powers. So
I see.
Super throw his voice away from her.
That's good. We also get some nice scenes of everyone kind of hanging out in the Fortress of Solitude. Lana and Lois are like, "Oh, we both love him, but like this shit's serious now." And they hug over their common love for Superman, I guess, which is fine.
Yeah, it's kind of like Afterlife with Archie. It's like,
it is a little, yeah.
They're all having their siege in the, the fancy salt. Afterlife with Archie probably did it better though, right?
Yes, we can all agree.
And yeah, this issue ends with Superman kind of crying because he's just like kind of sitting here, realizing that his death is coming soon. This next issue, we jump into it where we meet Lois's new husband. Look at this asshole, Jordan Elliott. Who is this?
Jordan.
Shit.
Lame.
Jordan Elliott. Ugh. And the interviewer is like, "Hey, is it weird for you if your wife talks about her ex?" And he's like, "Nah, come on, we're the real heroes, us working stiffs. Superheroes, they ain't shit." And this guy, oh man. Lois tells him to go get back to work, doing whatever you're doing. Meanwhile, the Legion of Supervillains shows up from the future to help this Luthor, Brainiac, Kryptonite team, because they're like, "Hey, yeah, we remember from history that this is when Superman's greatest foe defeated him, so we were going to join up with you." And Brainiac loves that. He's like, "Superman's greatest foe? Yeah, that is me." And so like the whole rest of the story, he's like, "Hey, I'm your greatest foe, man." I like it. I like how it instantly goes to his head, and it just like defines him for the rest of this book. Superman is talking to Perry White about like, "Man, I don't know what to do about this Lois and Lana thing. Like, I know I love Lois more, but I don't want to hurt Lana. Like, I can't tell her that." Meanwhile, I think this might be my favorite part of the whole thing, where Lana and Jimmy are like, "Hey, we got to help Superman." they've like these villains are doing this assault from outside. They've set up a shield where no other heroes can get in. We got to help them from the inside. And like, hey, remember that time that we got powers in some weird Silver Age book? We're gonna go get that stuff from Superman's collection and just get powers again, right? That'd be cool.
I love it. I love it. This is such a stupid trope. Not a stupid trope. It's a trope that like really gets to me. It's like Superman's helped us so much over the years. We need to help him back. And like we can get powers. Man, Shazam, the new movie, does a little bit of this, and I fucking love it. I was like mad hype when everybody's like, "We've got to help our hero friend. He's helped us so much." And
but like honestly, it doesn't look like Superman needs help. Like this frontal assault of theirs is pathetic. There's like a single tank, a single like Brainiac skull sitting there, and like Superman destroys one of them with his like heat ray from far away. It doesn't really look like Superman is struggling here. I don't know.
Really, yeah, really, the only one who needs help is he needs help against this Kryptonite Man. That's the only one he's getting. Yeah. Which I don't know who Kryptonite Man is, but I'm assuming because he's green, he's a man made of kryptonite.
Right. So Superman can get too close. Yeah. But yeah, Lana and Jimmy say, all right, we're going to take the fight to these bad guys. They show up and start punching shit.
I love the art, by the way, again, of this. Yeah. This isn't George Perez. It says it's Curt Swan and Kurt Schaffenberger for this one.
Oh, for the second one?
Yeah.
Okay.
But, man, I love Lana's fighting style because it's not like a boom, pow. It's like her literally just like pouncing on a dude. Like she has clearly never fought, but she's just like going to get fucking in it. And I really like how she's drawn by Swan in this. Like, it's really cool.
Yeah. She straight up kills Lex Luthor. And so this Luthor-Brainiac combo falls to the floor. And the Legion of Supervillains who's standing there is like, hey, let me help you up. And, like, burns her body to a crisp. Like, damn, Lana is dead. Jimmy, meanwhile, has been trying to shut down this shield that's on the outside, keeping the other superheroes from getting in. Luthor, by the way, knew to put this up because the Legion of Supervillains told him that the other superheroes were going to try and help. So he's like, great, taken care of. Thanks for the info from the future, y'all.
Way to keep the Justice League out of the story, though. I like it.
Yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm. And so Jimmy, like, deactivates the device, but the shield is still up? Wonder what's going on there. And then it's like, whoa, y'all killed her, you murdering scum. But then Jimmy gets murdered by Lex Luthor? I thought he was dead. What? We get a real Weekend at Bernie's situation with Brainiac controlling Luthor's body here. It's great. It's creepy, and I love it. Weekend at Brainiacs. Weekend at Luthor's really makes more sense. He's a dead body. I don't know.
Weekend at Brainies, that's what you call it.
Weekend at Brainies, that is good. So Luthor's dead body is still, like, has vocal cords that work well enough. And this image with, I think this is my panel of the week, is his, like, dying face on the bottom of this panel kind of tilted to one side saying, our final assault begins. I really like the creepiness of that.
Did we skip over Krypto, or are we getting to Krypto?
No, it's the next.
We're getting to Krypto. Okay.
They shoot a nuclear device at the Fortress of Solitude, and then that's how Kryptonite Man gets into the fortress.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And then Krypto fights him to the death. They Krypto helps take down the Kryptonite Man, but of course it's poison to Krypto, so it just kind of ends. Yeah, both of them lying on the floor, and of course Superman hears it, but he can't do anything about it. He learns that the Legion of Supervillains killed Lana, and he gets super pissed, and they're like, oh, yeah, well, everybody else is dead. We're going to just kind of get out of here. We just kind of wanted to show up to take part in this Death of Superman thing, but...
Well, the story says that he dies. We're not mentioned in this story, are we, guys? No, we're not.
Yeah, we got to go. We got to go. So they go... They head outside, Lois and Superman, to deal with Brainiac Luthor. And, unfortunately at this point, Luthor's body gives out. Brainiac doesn't have any juice left and just kind of passes out. And he's like, wow, that was kind of anticlimactic. Like, what's going on here? Something still feels off. Meanwhile, Lois is looking at the statue that the Legion of Superheroes gave him. Like, why this statue? Like, what's this device he's holding in the statue? I don't know. Superman puts it all together, like, oh, what's the one villain I haven't mentioned yet? Oh, of course, it's Mr. Mixes Pitlick. I think that's how we decided we were going to say that. Mr. Mixes Pitlick. Who teleports back in.
I like how you framed it like we had this discussion before the episode.
No, I feel like we've talked about this character before, right? On an episode of the show?
Pitlick? I don't know.
Something? I don't
Maybe.
remember.
He's not in All-Star Superman, but I think he's got an equivalent like in Supreme or something.
Maybe that's what, something like that. Anyways, he shows up and he's
voiced by Gilbert Gottfried in the cartoon, so I always associate them.
I love him in the cartoons.
He's kind of dressed like Malcolm McDowell from Clockwork Orange.
Well, this isn't his normal design.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a totally different design. I think he looks kind of like a Johnny Depp character in this design here. He shows up and he says, "Yeah, look, I just kind of like I'm from the fifth dimension. We are immortal. We get bored. I spent the first 2,000 years of my life doing nothing. Then I spent the next 2,000 being a nice guy. Then I decided I'd be mischievous. No, I'm just gonna be straight up evil, and I'm gonna kill Superman. I'm gonna try that."
I love it. It's dumb. I like it.
It's dumb, and he turns into like this crazy, weird creature. I like the simplicity of this design here. It's very like flat and almost shadowy in a weird way with like this weird. It's a cool design. It works well to just kind of sell it as being other dimensional, you know.
Right. He's got like an energy field of like red lines around him.
Yeah, it's so simple and it works so well for what it is. But Lois is like, "Hey, look at that statue again. Isn't this a hint, maybe, that the Legion gave you?" And so it is a hint. He uses this device to kind of trick Mr. Mixes Pitlick into saying his name backwards so that he'll teleport back to the fifth dimension while he turns on this other thing that's going to send him to the Phantom Zone. It rips Mr. Mixes Pitlick in half and kills him. And Superman's like, oh my God, I knew this is what was going to happen. I can't do this anymore. And he like walks into a room full of gold kryptonite, and that's the last time Lois Lane ever saw Superman.
You never saw Superman again.
What? The force field goes down, everybody shows up, there's like carnage, everything, blah blah blah. Everyone assumes that I guess what gold super kryptonite does is it depowers you. Right? That's the context.
We looked this up. We did look up every single kryptonite. Sure, why not?
Okay, great. Did we once look up how many different types of kryptonite there are?
13.
Yeah, there were a lot.
So that's kind of the end of the interview here. He's like, "Yep, that's it. Superman died in the Arctic, as far as I'm concerned." And then the interviewer is like dropping this bomb, like, "Hey, what do you think? The people who think that he's still out there somewhere?" And they're like, same shit, like Jim Morrison and all those people, all that kind of stuff. And for a second
Elvis
there,
and Bruce Lee.
Yeah. He says Jim Morrison and Bruce Lee. I feel like Elvis would have made more sense.
Right.
I don't know.
Maybe Elvis was dead for like 8 years by that point.
Yeah. He didn't mention Kurt Cobain. That happened.
I mean, it's 1997.
Yeah. He didn't mention Biggie. How come Alan Moore didn't know who was going to die between 87 and 97? Huh?
Become famous and then die.
Boy, it would have been a dick move of Alan Moore to predict someone's death.
If it just said Biggie and no one knew who Biggie was when he wrote this in '86.
Oh, that's great. At this point, I was reading this. I'm like, oh, the way this interview was talking about stuff, I wouldn't be surprised if this interviewer turns out to be Clark Kent, huh?
And I thought it was going to be. I really did.
For a second, but until the next panel when...
Y'all are dopes.
Until I'm reminded that Lois has a husband who walks in, and I'm like, oh, wait, no, it's that guy. Great.
No, it's definitely not the guy whose name starts with Jor and ends with L.
I didn't even catch that. I was trying to think of the significance, and I was like, oh...
I was trying to spell the letters. I'm like, how does that spell Kal-El or Clark Kent or Superman? If you rearrange the letters of Jordan Elliott? Where's this J come from? Oh...
Wait, shouldn't it have been like Kal-El, like Calvin Elliott or some shit?
I don't know, but the House of L, which makes sense to this last name. It's not as dumb as the end of Red Sun, where like Luther then becomes like has the last name starts with an L, and then he restarts it.
I still like that. I don't care how dumb it is. I like it. I like the cyclical nature of it. Whatever.
I kind of like
so
it. I kind of like it. I kind of hate it.
it's okay.
It's like a bad pun. I'm like, I groan in it, but I appreciate it.
Yeah. So they leave. We get a few winks to the audience. We see that this baby has a very Superman haircut. We see that it's like able to. What is it doing? It turns this kryptonite into a diamond and makes it float.
Just coal.
I'm sorry. Yeah, it turns this coal into a diamond and is able to make it float somehow. And Superman winks at the camera. I'm sorry. Jordan Elliott winks at the camera when right after he and his wife talk about fucking later that night. It's a good time. It's a good time for Superman.
Pre-crisis Superman. You had a good time. You had a good run.
Had a good run. See ya, suckers. Great. Good stuff. I really enjoyed this story. I could have swore I'd read it before, but I don't remember anything that happened in it, so it must have been fresh to me. But just a fun, enjoyable story. It gives you the greatest hits. I was thinking about how it, like, you could do this in line without it being a sort of retrospective, and I feel like if you did this story today, that's how it would go. That it was like, this story is going to be the death of Superman, and it would take 12 issues and have tie-ins, and it would be this exact story. But this is just so condensed and great that it makes it, I don't know, it makes it work well in a way that wouldn't work. I don't know what I'm trying to say.
I think it rushes to the idea in the first part where it says, like, this is the final siege. Wow, this happened quickly. He got everybody up there right after that attack on the Daily Planet. It felt quick to me there, but it had such like a good like build and sense of finality for like a one location fight for the entire like second part. Like I think it worked really well. Like I don't know most of Superman's villains, but I figured out pretty much who everybody was really quickly. Like I know the idea that Brainiac's smart and kind of robot-y, and I know that Luthor's Luthor. I don't know. I've never seen Kryptonite Man in my life, but I figured him out pretty quick. Even Mr. Mxyzptlk, I'm like, oh, I got you. I've never gotten that dude ever, and I'm like, okay, I got this dude. Like he's cool. Like I think he does a really good like all the villains in one story. I think it's really well done.
Yeah. I think you got to watch some Superman animated series at some point. I love that.
I really do.
Yeah.
I think you. Yeah. Were you saying that it's almost as good as, or maybe better?
I think it's better. They made it after the Batman
TAS.
show.
Sorry,
so
we finished
they
our sentence.
They learned some lessons, I think.
I think there's less like variance. Like Batman TAS has some very shaggy episodes where they have to a third string animation studio, and it's just like bad. Superman doesn't have any episodes that are just that look bad and just you're like, ugh, this probably should have just been cut. But I don't know that I think it's a better show overall. I don't know.
That's fair.
I bet Bruce would like it. We watched a couple JLU episodes this week when we were prepping for this episode. He liked all of that, so I bet he would like.
So good. It's so good.
Yeah, I bet he would enjoy that. I don't know. I feel like I'm being a little bit of a killjoy because I know like what's going to happen in the future in 1997. But this story kind of leaves a bad taste in my mouth. Like I know they did it because like this is the last Superman story, and there is a lot of like love letter type stuff to the silly Silver Age stuff. But I mean, like 20 years of Jeff Johns being like, but what if I remind you of the nostalgic thing and then had the villain like heartlessly kill the nostalgic thing you like, and it's just like you get tired of it. Like I understand in 1986 this was not a thing that we had seen over and over, so it had to be just shocking to be like, holy shit, like Lana's just dead.
Yeah,
well, I think that's also why, because I knew it was going to be an imaginary quick story that doesn't matter, and I think like that selling it at the beginning makes it okay in a weird way, instead of like this is current and deadly and it's a big deal.
Yeah, when I look back at the book, I completely forget about the fact that they like just violently killed like all these like main supporting cast members.
Like I don't, like in a way, it's not really fair because Supreme, he couldn't use any of the characters. But I feel like that's like a story that celebrates the characters in a way that doesn't just throw them all, like, well, we got to kill this person and this person. It's more like, big damn heroic moments for a lot of different characters that, yes, you really only like, what's her name, Suprema, because she's Supergirl, but it's still cool. And like when Krypto has a scene in Supreme, like it's awesome because like you like Krypto, he's cool. And so like Krypto just has his one scene and then he just dies. And so like, I don't know. That's the thing that kind of leaves a bad taste in my mouth. I get it, and I don't dislike it, but I like the other story a lot better. Like this one, I just wouldn't go back and read this on purpose. It's just kind of a downer.
Sure. I agree with what you're saying. I can see that. I'll say I like them both. How about that? Cool. Speaking of downers, I forgot to mention that we got to talk about Marvel's #4 coming up here. Should we just get right into that? Anything else to say on the Alan Moore front? We promised to read more. That's our resolution. We're going to read more Alan Moore this year.
More.
More. Here. More. So on to Marvel's #4. This is the final issue of Marvel's. We are going to kind of continue the Marvel's long read after this because there's another miniseries that comes up, but this is the end of the first miniseries. This is now, what year are we in now? Like, the 80s?
We're in the 70s.
We're in the early 70s.
Specifically,
Great.
71 or 72.
Oh, yeah, okay, great. The heroes are off fighting the Kree Skrull War, and Phil Sheldon's book, our main character. Great. His book is doing real well. His photographs of all the Marvels, because everyone misses the heroes, and they were, like, hating on the heroes back then. But at the same time, now they're saving their lives, and they're like, we kind of miss them, but we don't want to admit it, so we'll just buy this book instead. He hires an assistant because he's getting kind of old and cranky and is making more money now. And he's like thinking about a sequel to his book, but he also wants to do something nice for all the heroes because there's still like a lot of distrust. J. Jonah Jameson hates them. Everyone thinks that Spider-Man killed George Stacy. You just like seeing examples of this constantly where nobody trusts them and they're constantly saving everyone's life and it's pissing him off. So he says, you know what? I'm going to go clear Spider-Man of the murder of George Stacy. And I like the premise of this. Like this whole book is kind of about him going around interviewing people to try and get the true story of what happened that night, which I get, I've kind of got the movie versions taking over my head a little bit because I didn't realize that Doc Ock was involved with the murder of George Stacy. I think I just thought it was the Green Goblin. I don't think I've actually read that in comics. That might be something good for Death Month next year.
Yeah, there's a collected edition that has his death and then Gwen's death in one collection called The Death of the Stacys. Because I think they're both like two-parters.
Okay, that makes sense. But yeah, everyone is just like, yeah, I saw Spider-Man like throw this damn chimney at George Stacy and kill him. I don't know if we talk enough about George Stacy or if people know, but he's Gwen Stacy's dad. He was the police chief, police captain, and so yeah, it was like it's a pretty big deal. Everybody in the city knows that
Dennis Leary in the first Garfield movie.
Yeah, I love Dennis Leary in this movie.
He was actually really good in that movie.
Yeah, he's perfect.
Role. Yeah, that is good casting.
I think so. He gets a job to go see Luke Cage, Hero for Hire, interview him. Meanwhile, he's just like kind of investigating and asking everybody about the Spider-Man guy. Eventually gets to Gwen Stacy and like talks to her about it. And, she for a while hated Spider-Man, but now doesn't. Just has like such wonder in his eyes that he realizes that his book isn't like about trying to get people to like the Marvels. Like they don't care. He just realizes all they care about is saving the innocent people and like just seeing the wonder on people's faces. I was reading this and I thought for a second like, oh, his book is just going to be like pictures of regular people like looking up at the sky, seeing the Marvels. Like, oh,
that'd be cool.
What but that wasn't it at all, because immediately afterwards, Green Goblin kidnaps Gwen Stacy, and Phil is like, following them, and he follows them to the point that he sees Gwen's death.
He hops in a cab, and says like, "Get over there!" And the cab driver was modeled after John Romita Sr.
Oh, so that's what he looks like. Okay.
Well, I guess probably in '94 or whenever.
You say he looks like FDR.
Yeah.
That's a good tidbit.
And the license plate says Jazzy, which was his nickname. Jazzy John Romita.
Jazzy.
So dumb. Not like
It
Jazzy
is.
Jeff, but
Um,
in an alternate world, Jazzy Jeff took his name from John Romita Sr. It was his favorite
Ooh.
comic artist in my alternate
could be.
universe headcanon.
That could be it. Yeah. Hey, follow that fly-in guy. Hey, muddy your nuts. Like, just do it. So they do it. He sees Gwen's death. It goes into a massive depression. Doesn't want to do anything. He's like, oh, they didn't even mention her death in the newspaper. Like, page 10. What? Everyone was talking about Norman Osborn and Green Goblin and all that. And then he just sees more and more of this shit on the news, and he breaks his TV and says, fuck this shit, I'm done, I retire. The end. And that's how this book is. It's like, it is a little happy.
He's like, I'm not going to deal with any of these fucking superheroes anymore. Hey, Paperboy, you're a normal kid. Yeah, I'm a normal kid. What's your name? Danny Ketch. I'm going to be Ghost Rider in 20 years. Ah. Wah, wah.
And they have a...
His haunted bicycle.
And they take a picture, and it's like, it's a nice moment where, you know, he is now retiring and gets to spend more time with his family, except it's a picture with a weird Paperboy instead of his two daughters that are presumably grown up.
That's pretty on brand for Phil, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, his wife is just kind of shocked by this whole thing. His assistant has been given the camera, and she's in charge now. And he's like, no, this is it. The end of the story. We're done. And I was like, what? This is I remember this book very differently.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that happened. Great. I did y'all remember this? Did you
I
know this was
remember. I
coming up?
remember Gwen dying, but that's the only like detail I remember. I don't remember this much like around it. I don't remember him knowing Gwen beforehand. I don't
remember that.
I don't remember that at all. I actually don't like that. I don't like how I don't like that this is the issue where he actually like talks to the heroes and talks to like people we know that are like main characters. You know, like him talking like Ben Urich and like other bystanders, like that's fine to me.
But it is a little too big. Yeah, that makes sense.
It's a little too pat for him to like talk to Luke Cage and interview him, and you know, I don't like that.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's interesting. Like again, it's in a way it's not fair to compare, but like Kurt Busiek's Astro City, I feel like does a better job of having like the heroes entered the world at X time, and then time has moved forward since then. So like there's the Bronze Age where their Captain America character like disappears for a long time, and it's planned out. So it's not just kind of a figuring out afterwards what the theme of everything was, the way that we kind of did with comics. But yeah, the theme of like, oh, comics are getting too serious now, and everything's too dark. I don't know, like that didn't really work for me as well in this one.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's supposed to be like, is Gwen's death the end of the Silver Age? Is that what it's supposed to be? Like people have like reattributed that to?
Yeah, I mean, I would say most people would say Jack Kirby leaving Fantastic Four after issue 100 and going to DC, which was, I think, 1970.
So like a year earlier? Okay.
Yeah, so I think that's when most people say that the Silver Age ended. But yeah, it's right around there as far as like when, the end of the era is. So. Yeah. And then Stan Lee's kind of disappeared. He didn't write the death of Gwen Stacy, of course. So check out Marvel's The Untold Story for all the history of that stuff.
Ooh. Interesting.
Yeah, so this issue didn't work well for me. So
me neither. It feels out of place compared to the first three. But it is still, on the whole, I still like Marvel's. But I guess there's going to be more. We don't have to consider this the ending.
Apparently there was also in July a Marvel's The Epilogue that came out that they made this year. Or I guess
this past July?
Yeah.
Well, okay, so we'll have to read that to kind of finish out the whole thing.
Yeah, it's a 16-page story. Like Phil Sheldon at Christmas, he talks to Wolverine and shit.
Oh my God, no! I mean, wasn't that cut? I thought Kurt Busiek and Alex Ross joke about Wolverine having been in the story originally, and they're like, "Nah, don't put him in there."
Yeah,
that's
you
fair.
You can go find pictures. Just look up Marvel's epilogue. The Marvel site has a preview of it. I'm sure it'll get unlimited like in a month or two.
Yeah, I think like next we're gonna read Marvel's Eye of the Camera, which is a sequel that came out in December 2008. How many issues was this whole
It's
thing?
6 issues, but they're not as big. And they.
And it's not Alex Ross art.
Yeah,
right?
I cannot remember who did the art.
You know, we kind of stopped mentioning Alex Ross art. It's just so good that we get used to it. And I think I'm gonna miss seeing his beautiful pictures every week because they're just so good. Alex Ross.
I love how chunky his Spider-Man is, and Spider-Man's not chunky. He's like built like a real person.
I think he's too chunky, but that's okay.
I think the costume just kind of hangs on him a little weird. That's all.
But I like it. I really do. It's got like a thickness to it that I'm not used to seeing. I like it. Jay Anacleto is the artist for.
Great, and it's still Curt Busiek writing. So for our next 6 episodes, we'll continue reading that era of Marvels. I have not read any of those, so I have no idea what to expect from them. I imagine it's just going to be 6 issues of Phil Sheldon being an old man complaining about what's going on these days. That'll be fun. Cool. Next time, though, Marvel's Eye of the Camera, and then for our regular book, we are going to do some Birds of Prey. There's a movie coming out that appears to have lots of Harley Quinn in it because she's popular.
It's got 2 titles. It's Birds of Prey or The Fantabulous Emancipation of Harley Quinn.
Contraption of Professor.
I think I'm right, though. Is it The Fantabulous Emancipation of Harley Quinn? Is that what it's called?
What? I haven't even seen a trailer for this thing. I'm very confused. I've never read any Birds of Prey. Look, y'all are gonna have to teach me everything about everything. All I know is that Gail Simone very famously wrote some Birds of Prey. We're gonna read the first story where she took over, which was called Of Like Minds from August of 2003. It's issues 56 through 61. The Huntress was famously added to the team. The art is by Ed Benez, and that's everything y'all have told me about it, and that's everything that I know. So look forward to that next week. Birds of Prey and Marvel's Eye of the Camera #1. What else we got to talk about here? Chris, what are you doing for your stupid minds here? Are you doing Birds of Prey? Oh, it won't be out yet.
We are not. We are doing what may have been the worst movie that came out in 2019, snubbed at the Oscars. The Fanatic with John Travolta, directed by Fred Durst.
How did I know you were going to do another Travolta movie? Is Travolta now 2 for 2 on your worst movies of the years?
He's putting in amazing work.
Because you did, was Gotti your worst movie of last year or the year before?
It was I think that or God's Not Dead 3 were my least favorite movies of 2018.
All right, I gotta rewind. Did you say Fred Durst?
Yes. He directed John Travolta in a film that is apparently based on a real episode in Fred Durst's life where a crazy fan kidnapped him.
And who does John Travolta play?
The crazy fan who...
Not Fred Durst.
Wait, and Fred Durst plays himself?
No, he's the director of the film.
Who plays Fred Durst?
Devon Sawa plays an actor who gets kidnapped.
Devon Sawa's getting work.
Sawa?
Wild America.
Forgot about that guy. Okay, great. I'll check this episode out. Sounds great. What? Anything else we got to mention?
I guess tune in next time for me to explain to Kia who the Birds of Prey are and what's going on.
They're a tag team in New Japan Pro Wrestling, right? No, they're not. They are.
They pray a lot. I know that.
It's like a religious thing. Oh shit! I thought it was spelled the other way. Damn it!
This is how we're gonna make you find Jesus, Kia.
All right. Well, I guess I'm gonna get out of here now. This got awkward. Thanks, Vince. I love you.
Love you too.
Thanks, Chris. I love you.
Thanks. I already have one of those.
Okay, cool. And my name's Kia. Thanks for listening. Love you all. See you next time. Bye.